Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live. My name is Ellen Rogin, and this is the Extraordinary Advisor Show. And we have great information for you to help you in every area of your life, especially your business. And I'm really excited and interested in our topic today. I think you will be too, which is on gray divorce. So I know many of you advisors out there of course, you probably all had clients who've been through divorce. Maybe you have a specialty in the divorce area, maybe not, and you're thinking about it. And our guest today, Linda Lingo, is a friend of mine who really specializes in this area and has a deep understanding and is going to talk to us about how this is different than other clients getting divorced, things that you maybe should really think about, what not to say, what you can say to people. And I met Linda. We were introduced by a mutual business friend, contact of ours, Barbara Provost, who's also been a guest on the show. And Linda has a really interesting background. She was a financial advisor for many years, a CPA, similar background to me, but then switched to being a financial coach. And during our time together, we'll talk about what that really means, because maybe you know what it means, but I didn't know, what's the difference between a financial coach and a financial advisor. And so we'll also talk about that, because I think it's fascinating and a really great resource for financial advisors to know there's other people out there to help support their clients as well. A little bit more on Linda's background. Prior to starting her financial coaching business, she was a financial advisor for 10 years and also served as corporate controller for a Fortune 500 company and a CPA with Ernst & Young. I don't actually know if we talked about that. I was a CPA with Ernst & Young. So we'll offline, we'll talk about that as well. And, a lot of her mission is really is to empower women. She's not against empowering men, but her focus is on empowering women with proven strategies to be less stressed about their money, make really good decisions. She's got a holistic system. She works one-on-one with people and also runs really great classes for them. So Linda, welcome. So glad you're here with us.
Me too. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, well, let's dig right in. What is gray divorce? What does that actually mean?
Well, that's a great question. And so many people ask that too. And it's actually a term that researchers came up with when they were looking at divorce, because overall, the divorce rate is going down. However, the divorce rate is rising in those 50 and older, and they're typically in a long-lasting marriage. So gray divorce, 50 and older, going through divorce.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that the other divorce rate is on the decline. And I don't know if that's because people are getting married later, or I don't know what that means, but that it is on the rise with 50 over. There's also probably more people 50 and older now as the baby boomers are getting grayer and grayer.
Exactly.
So let's talk about how prevalent is this with the 50 plus 50 years and older age group? How prevalent is this divorce?
Well, it's actually a quarter of all divorces are occurring with those 50 and older, and 1 in 10 is occurring with those 65 and older. And there's a couple different reasons. One you probably would think of is they've typically been married 20 years or longer. They've been in a long relationship. They raise the kids, and now they're empty nesters. And, it's they're not the same person that I married 20, 25, 30, 40 years ago. So that's one very typical reason. Another reason is for those 65 and older, they're like, I am going to live another, 30 years. And do I want to spend 30 years with this person who's now home all the time? I could manage it when they were out of the house most of the day, but now, we're here, we're together, and, this isn't my life that I want to lead. And others just say, they've lost the spark. So there's a lot of, and I think the stigma of getting a divorce isn't the same as it was for our parents. So I'd say that figures into it as well.
Yeah, my mom's parents were divorced, and it was actually like a bigger stigma than you and I can even imagine. People wouldn't let her come over and play because her parents were divorced. I mean, it was like a huge stigma back then. And it was really, really difficult. And so clearly that's gone down because everybody, we all know people,
Yeah.
you maybe be your own parents who've been through divorce. So
Mhm.
how is when someone's over 50 and they're getting divorced, how is that different than the typical divorce that advisors might think about?
Well, because these people are typically retired, near retirement, or have reasons why they haven't retired yet. So, and most of them have grown children or grandchildren. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. And what really makes it complicated is the division of assets. Because if you've been married 20 or more years, you've accumulated a lot, not only physical assets, but monetarily. So you're looking at a division of retirement assets, maybe a pension. So it just makes it a whole lot more complicated.
Do you think that people going through a gray divorce have a different worry than other people, or is it in some ways less worrisome? Like if you know you're okay to retire, then maybe you're like, okay, we'll just split what we have and downsize our lifestyle. Or do you think there's other stressors, financial stressors that come into play when someone's contemplating a gray divorce?
Yeah, I think at this age, well, one of the statistics is that women's household income is going to fall by 41% following a divorce or separation after age 50, while a man's household income will only drop by 23%. Now, couple this with the fact that women on average live 5 years longer than men, and you've got some serious financial consequences. So that's obviously one big difference for women going through a gray divorce. The other one is, believe it or not, there are still so many women who have been supported by their husbands. And so we're looking at spousal support. And if you're 50, 55, 65, you're probably not going to go out and get a job, to supplement your income. I mean, it's, who wants to be a Walmart greeter at 65? I mean, honestly, that just sounds horrible. So spousal support is a big deal. And then retirement planning. So if you're 55 and you got 10 years to retire and you have your retirement on track, and all of a sudden, maybe not all of a sudden, but it's got to be halved. And then you put into that mix the family home. And I want to make sure that I make this point. The number one financial mistake women make is wanting to hang on to the family home. And it's emotional. The kids were brought up there, raised there, they have some great memories anyway of living there. And it's traumatic, having to sell everything or downsize and make a move. And sometimes they just emotionally aren't ready for that. So that honestly is one of the number one mistakes women make, is keeping the family home, because they're downsizing, but they can't afford, the bigger home anymore. So
That's interesting, because I would have thought that once your kids are out of the house and they're not in their local schools, that maybe that attachment to like, oh no, I don't want to disrupt their day-to-day wouldn't be there. But I'm hearing from you now, actually, there still is this wanting to hang on. And maybe from your experiences, it's still because you want your kids, even though they're grown, to feel like everything's not disrupted.
You still have the family nest. You still have the home to come home to. And I have to tell you, having gone through a great divorce myself, it is such an emotional experience. And this is really where financial advisors can come in and help. You have so many decisions you're making. Emotionally, you're traumatized. Financially, you're traumatized. And so when you can have someone that like, and trust, and confide in and say, I want to keep the home, but as a financial advisor, you can say, I hear what you're saying. I understand that emotionally you are attached to this. I would like to show you, so you ask permission, if it's okay with you, I'd like to show you how that's going to impact you and your budget. So asking permission to share financial information, not being condescending, not being judgmental, but just sharing the information. And that will go a long ways with that divorced client. So yeah, it's a big deal.
I really appreciate you sharing that, A, you went through a great divorce, and B, how hard it was, because here's someone with an incredible financial background. Like, you get how things work and how still stressful and traumatic that can be. Just imagine when that whole financial thing isn't your sweet spot, how complicated it can be. So what are ways that you see advisors just talking about, you gave us some great ideas of how you can say things like ask permission, but what are mistakes that you see advisors making when they're talking to people, women going through a divorce?
I would say the number one thing I would say don't do is don't pressure her. Her retirement has just been cut in half. And you need to learn to be supportive. And like I said, empathetic, listening. The last thing you want to do is be condescending or demeaning. And, so here's the, women are from Venus, men are from Mars talk. Women many women, I won't say all, but many women like to verbalize. And they're not necessarily asking you to solve their problem, but they're asking you to listen, to be a sounding board. And so you need to understand how to communicate with women. And that is by asking permission. If she's talking about, her home, and she loves her home and she wants to keep her home, and, it's it's an emotional, a stronghold or rock for her, she, just, nod your head, definitely have eye contact, listen, and then ask permission. Ask permission then. Is it okay if I share with you what that's going to look like? Because when you're in the moment going through a divorce, you are not looking at what your finances are going to be in 5 years, 10 years, or 25 years. Right now, this is the number one question women going through a divorce have. Will I be okay? If you can help them to understand that's the underlying question, and if you can show them they will be okay, and this is how they will be okay, you will earn not only their like, but their trust. And when you earn their trust, you'll be their financial advisor for life. Not only that, but women talk, whether it's at the hair salon, the nail salon, or at the gym. And we will tell our friends, my financial advisor heard me. He didn't talk down to me. He wasn't condescending. He heard me, and he or she helped me walk through the numbers, which I had no idea what they were, because once again, many of these women have not been in charge of the finances. Many of these women, their husbands did it all. So not only are they forced with, having half, but they're also having to learn how to do all of this. So when you can take the time to educate them on things like budgeting, and okay, so I hate the word budget, intentional money saving and spending plan is what I like to call it. But when you can help them walk through the process and then help them see that they will be okay and what that looks like, and sometimes that is a hard conversation, but it's being empathetic and listening that really goes so far. So,
yeah. And I want to add to this a couple things. One, on the advisor side, this is, and I know you're not inferring this, but it's not just men that have an issue. with
No.
jumping in with a recommendation. Lisa Dad, who was a guest we've had on the show a couple of times, said one of the problems advisors have is that they're always advising.
Mhm.
And that listening and not going too fast, it's because you want to help. You clearly want to help.
Yeah.
And so that, to be clear, this is something that's important. I remember when I had my practice, it was similar with people going through the death of a spouse. This one woman had handled all the finances in her marriage, and the husband had not. And that's part of the way that I got her as a client, because everybody else talked to the husband, even though he said she handles everything, and they were still talking to him.
Mhm.
And I was talking to both of them. But the mistake that I made was I jumped in and I thought, oh, she understands the money. And I think I moved too fast with something, a decision she wasn't ready to make, because people are in a compromised mental state, even if they really understand things. And the other part is we're kind of having this conversation because it's more prevalent, but you could easily have a great divorce where the woman's the primary breadwinner and she's pissed off. She has to give half of her pension retirement plan to, okay, yeah. So Linda's saying, yeah, that was me.
Mhm.
Right. So it's not just the stereotype of maybe your mom, of somebody could be that really wasn't involved. They might have been involved differently. And it's still, yeah, I can think of friends that have been through this and they knew everything that was going on. It's still super traumatic. I love that point of getting people to realize they're going to be okay, because I think actually all your clients want to know that.
True.
And it's more highlighted when someone's going through divorce or death, really, of a
Mhm.
spouse, because they are acutely aware of things that have changed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, to your point, Ellen, yes, there are many of us who, we are the primary breadwinner, and we may have I initiated the divorce. So, I wasn't surprised, but and the flip side, which I can admit now it was a little tough, is one of the reasons I stayed in my marriage for 40 years was because of the finances, was because of my retirement plan. I ran my retirement plan, our retirement plan, every year for 10 years. I knew the numbers. I knew what our life monetarily looked like together and what it would look like separate. And it took me a couple of years to get my mind wrapped around how I could live, what my life would look like, with half. And I have to tell you, I mean, and I saved for retirement. I maxed out my 401k, and the hardest check I ever wrote, and yet the best check I ever wrote, was the 6-figure check to my ex for his half of my retirement account. I didn't physically write the check. I had to transfer it to a Quadro, which, okay, so that's another, can I continue on that?
Yeah, please.
Here is a great way that financial advisors can also help their clients. And that's actually two things. I mentioned a Quadro. I want to follow up on that. So qualified domestic relation order, that's what a Quadro is. And when your clients are going through a divorce, and if they have retirement accounts, the way to assist them is to help them open a retirement account for the other person. I mean, obviously they have to come in and they have to give you their information, open the account, but help them, once you have the Quadro order from the court, help them transfer those funds to the other retirement account. That is how it will happen without any tax implications. And you want to make sure you do it the right way, because the last thing you want to do is cause your client a taxable event by withdrawing those retirement funds from her IRA and then writing a check. I mean, that would be the dumbest thing ever. So, okay, so I shouldn't have said that. Sorry.
It's okay. It'd be a big mistake.
It would be a big mistake. So helping them with a Quadro is a huge deal. And it's, they don't understand what it is. It's a technical thing. It's a financial advisory thing. So that's where your expertise will definitely shine. The other area is if a couple going through a divorce, let's say, for instance, she's getting alimony from him. Here's another area you can help them is possibly helping them take out a life insurance on the spouse that's paying the alimony to make sure that she will be getting it for as long or for as much as what the court orders. I have seen instances where, unfortunately, the spouse paying the alimony, dies before that period is up, or child support if they're younger. But so a life insurance, usually a term life insurance policy, is a great way to look at it, and that's something most financial advisors can help their clients with, or refer them to a life insurance agent.
Perfect. So Linda, I want to make sure we have a little time to talk about, like, what is a financial coach and how is that different than a financial advisor? And why did you switch from being an advisor to a coach? And how, last question, I'll stop firing them off, and how a financial advisor might actually even partner with a financial coach to serve their clients?
Thank you for asking. So I became a financial coach and decided to transition from being a financial advisor to a financial coach when many of my clients were women, and they wanted and needed more education, financial education. And back in the day, we didn't get paid to educate. We got paid to manage assets under management. And I found that I took a lot of time to educate my clients. I was putting on a lot of seminars, and I loved it. So I transitioned to a financial coach. And what that means is I do not manage money. I don't advise on investments, individual investments, or mutual funds or ETFs. What I do is I educate women, and I use a holistic approach because as a former financial advisor, I was never taught or educated on things like money mindset or values-based investing. And those are things that are really important to me and to most of the women I coach. And so that's why I went into being a financial coach, so I could be holistic, so I could help women understand that they weren't a bad person because they were using a credit card. And I think that's one area financial advisors could improve on, is don't blame and shame women or anyone because they use a credit card, because a lot of times that's satisfying an emotional need. And the client needs to realize that. And that's not something a financial advisor always is equipped to help them figure out and walk through. So a financial coach is more holistic. At least I'm more holistic. We do money mindset. I educate them on, so I don't like the word budget, intentional money spending and saving plan, and then also on investing. So the basics of risk and return, volatility. What is a stock, a bond, and mutual fund? Because so many clients, if you really have eye contact with them and connect, you'll realize when they start glazing over because you're using all the lingo and they really don't have a clue. And so to really slow down and explain things to them, not in financial terms, but in everyday language. And so that's what I do. And then I help them with legacy planning. What does that look like? Charitable, family, and that's where I refer them to, estate planning attorneys, things like that. So I think you had more questions, but those are the ones I remember.
Yeah. So if an advisor might be saying to herself or himself, yeah, but I kind of do that, why would I partner with a financial coach? And maybe they do, but maybe what are areas that, might be ways that it would make sense to think about having someone else be part of your virtual team, whether they're officially part of your team or not, with a financial coach?
Yeah, I think the money mindset is a big thing. I think values, understanding values and setting goals in alignment with that is huge. And the other thing is, specializing. So helping women walk through things like a gray divorce, and just having been through it myself, helping them with actually how to plan, how to go through it, and then what does it look like on the other side? How do you plan for life after, not just surviving, but thriving? because I can tell you it was the best decision I ever made. And life, you can not only be okay after a great divorce, but you can be free, you can have joy, and you can live a life that you never thought was possible. So I want to show that to women. So that's probably something that I bring to the table as well is, just, I think, embodying what life can look like afterwards.
Cool. And I would also imagine it's a way that there might be people that get referred to you that just aren't a good fit. Maybe they don't fit your minimums in your business, or they're looking for things that aren't really your sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I had, when I had my practice, and I still have people calling me for referrals, that I wanted to have people that were good at different things so I could connect them with the right person. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Linda. So if there are people listening that want to connect with you to learn more about what you do, maybe they have someone that might be a good fit for one of your courses, or maybe it's just a learning more networking opportunity, where should they go?
So I'd love to have a conversation, lindalingo.com backslash connect contact. I think that's what it is on my website, but go lindalingo.com and you can have a free 20-minute connection call. We can just chat if you have more questions. And I have a YouTube channel, which people enjoy, because, I mean, you've seen me now, but if you have clients and they're like, I don't know, I'm very real on my YouTube channel. So Lindalingo YouTube is up there. And so lindalingo.com obviously is the easiest way.
Great. Thank you. And I'm so glad we got connected. I love having you as my friend now and in my sphere of really awesome financial professionals that I know and share with. And so thank you for sharing this great information with us today, Linda.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And for all of you listening or watching, thank you for being here. Again, my name is Ellen Rogin. If you want more information about me or my programs, you can go to ellenrogin.com. And if you go to ellenrogin.com/horse's mouth, you can download my special report, which is what extraordinary advisors know that others don't. And so thank you for being here. We can connect also on LinkedIn. If the question to ponder today is, how are you really connecting and supporting your clients? I'll put that out there. And remember to be great and create great every single day. Thanks.
Thank you.